Hey, do you like art? Do you consider yourself to be artistic? Do you ever get that empowered and relaxed feeling when you hold a paintbrush between your fingers? Well, whether or not you excessively pursue art as a passion, there are more benefits to art than just, well, art. To be able to create whatever your heart desires and express yourself through what you create can be really empowering, relaxing, and relieving. Sometimes, especially when you feel down, art can be the best remedy, but even goes long term. Do you know what art therapy is? Well, let us take a look at what it is. Art therapy, as the name suggests, is a therapy that uses art as the core treatment to instill positive emotion within the artist. Art therapy uses active art making, creative process, applied psychological theory, and a human experience within the psychotherapy relationship to enhance the lives of people, families, and communities. Professional art therapy efficiently supports personal and relationship therapeutic objectives as well as community problems when conducted by a professional art therapist. Art therapy is used to strengthen cognitive and sensory motor processes, build emotional resilience, stimulate insight, improve social skills, minimize and resolve disputes and discomfort, and advance societal and ecological transformation. Art therapy is a relatively recent discipline in the history of mental health care. Patients get this form of alternative treatment to increase their self-esteem and awareness, improve their cognitive and motor abilities, settle disputes or stress, and inspire perseverance. It uses sensory, kinesthetic, perceptual, and sensory symbolization to address difficulties that verbal psychotherapy is unable to address. Although art therapy is a relatively new therapeutic practice, its roots may be found in the late 18th century employment of the arts in the moral treatment of mental patients. However, it emerged as a professional field of study as late as the 20th century. Interestingly, art therapy as a self-administered remedy has been with mankind for quite some time. In fact, despite a lack of empirical evidence, it is often suggested that art therapy's earliest roots might go back to the origins of art itself. Who knows why early humans made cave paintings? Where the common idea states that it was a means of communication, it could very well also be one's attempt to draw out what one saw in order to feel accomplished about oneself. Or alternatively, the very idea of communication through art could be a self-promising therapeutic action. Needless to say, the history of art therapy is rather debatable. Art therapy may be used in three different ways. The first is referred to as analytic art therapy. Analytic art therapy is founded on analytical psychology and, in certain cases, psychoanalytic theories. Analytic art therapy is concerned with the client, the therapist, and the ideas that are communicated between them through art. Art psychotherapy is another use of art therapy. This method places a greater emphasis on the psychotherapist's verbal interpretation of their client's artwork. The final perspective on art therapy is via the prism of art as therapy. Some art therapists who use art as therapy think that openly evaluating the client's artwork is unnecessary. Therefore, they focus on the art's creative process instead. Art therapy is often argued to be more effective than verbal methods for therapy. This is because verbal communication is much clearer, and that often makes receivers of therapy much more reluctant to dissipate information. In most cases, patients tend to alienate themselves from any traumatic experience or any ill-conceived decisions that they may have made to avoid judgment or consequence. However, they might be more willing and transparent about sharing of such information through art, as it is encoded in a more indirect form of communication, which offers them a veil through which they can receive treatment. Art therapy allows patients to relieve stress as they express themselves through art. Even if there is no diagnostic purpose in mind, therapists can choose different materials for patients to use and create anything that makes them feel less stressed as they express their emotions and vent out to create what they might otherwise perceive to be beautiful. As such, the very creation of beauty itself makes them feel a certain purpose. For that purpose, patients can find salvation. As a byproduct, once the patients are done creating a work of art, they can feel much more accomplished. So not only does art therapy help alleviate negative energy and stress from patients, but it also helps them feel accomplished and acquire a sense of fulfillment through the creation of something beautiful. This may include mosaics, pottery, embroidery, and a variety of other artistic creations. But alongside that, art therapy is also arguably more effective since it helps patients use more than just acoustic movements. Art therapy extensively involves motor and sensory skills that better involve the patients physically. And through such patients can easily use a wider part of their body to allow trauma and stress to exit. Physical touch in itself is much more significant, and the opportunity to create through art is almost endless. As they say, words often fall short, but in the case of art and creativity, it helps offer a much wider playing field to patients to express themselves. Besides, although much more direct, verbal communication restricts the therapist's access to information to only what the patient is willing to give. Art therapy allows for a broadened horizon from which the therapist can derive a multitude of meanings. Even so, words just as direct can be manipulated to conceal certain important information. Art therapy allows for such loops and gaps to become much more traceable. Art therapy is extremely useful and is even known to help patients diagnosed with cancer to deal with an otherwise inconsolable state of mind. Art therapists have performed research to learn why some cancer patients use art as a coping technique and a tool for forming a positive identity outside of their cancer diagnosis. The women in the research took part in a variety of art classes, from pottery to card making to sketching and painting. Workshops offered them a sense of self outside of their cancer diagnosis, alleviated emotional suffering from their treatment, and gave them hope for the future. You might be surprised to know how effective it is. Fortunately, though, art therapy is often overlooked by most people seeking therapy and a psychological or emotional assistance to help them deal with trauma, stress, or disorders. It is even used to aid with rehabilitation goals for people who suffer from addictions, mistreatment, or even people convicted of a particular crime. Concepts suggest that artistic practices can be used to facilitate the venting of emotions and to allow a better understanding of one's own true and innermost desires. As such, it enables one to channel energy that might otherwise be used for destructive purposes to create something of value, either monetary or sentimental. In fact, art therapy is more common than you think for rehabilitation purposes in the criminal detention system around the globe. In countries where psychotherapy is often too expensive for prisons to afford, art therapy is used as an active agent to influence positive behavior within inmates and give them a sense of purpose whilst they serve their sentence. As such, poorer countries have seen a rise in art therapy in prisons over the last couple of decades. The primary goal of art therapy is to aid in the healing process. Clients with physical, mental, or emotional issues, illnesses, or disorders might benefit from art therapy. Painting, drawing, sculpture, photography, and digital art are all examples of visual art therapy that may be used in the therapeutic process. Creative exercises such as sketching or painting a certain feeling, creative journaling, or freestyle creativity may be used in art therapy. Increased excitation and, as a result, strengthening of neural connections is one potential learning process. Art therapy, therefore, is just as beautiful and balanced as the art created itself. That's all for art therapy. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have in the comment section down below. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you are instantly notified about any new uploads. Thanks for watching.